Welcome back to the Resupply with me, Guy Next Door,
And me, Thanatos.
bringing you your weekly double tap of all things Laserforce. So, welcome back, Than. We missed you last week, buddy.
You really didn't miss me. You think you missed me, but you didn't miss me.
I mean, now that you've started talking again, I think you're right. So, but welcome back. I think everyone else missed you for sure. We have
You know that nobody missed me in the slightest. They were all happy to have 3 Kiwi accents talking last week. They were happy to not be listening to me. And yeah, we know that, you're the real star here. Everybody is not a fan of me. And you know what? That's okay. I'm good with that.
I mean, that's basically everything that happens in life. So but I think all 2 of our listeners really just it's hard when you spring change on people. People are scared of change. So I'm glad you're home right here with us. Before we get into today's hot exclusive, I'm gonna call it. Do you want to just because it's kind of tradition, do you want to give us a rundown of what's happening this year in terms of nationals?
Yeah, we can do that. So this year's international tournament will be held in Brisbane, Australia from July 30th to August 3rd. We've already got confirmed teams and players from around Australia, New Zealand, and amazingly, we actually have 2 full teams worth of US players. Not only do we have 2 full teams worth of US players, we have 2 full teams plus spares coming from the US, which is pretty exciting, considering that we have never, ever had a full US team in the Southern Hemisphere ever. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's super crazy. Entry fee is going to be $200 per person, so $1,200 for a 6-person team. That is going to cover all of your tournament games for the week, practice night on Sunday, and awards dinner and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be a great time. If you've been listening to these podcasts and starting to get maybe a little FOMO because hey, it sounds super exciting, and maybe you want to actually come and test yourself against some of the best players in the world, and maybe some of the worst as well. You never know. You want to kind of see where you stack up. We're getting super close, so maybe you want to go ahead and buy your goddamn plane tickets. I'm looking at you, Scythe. Buy your goddamn plane ticket if you haven't bought it yet, jackass. Which I'm sure he's bought it because he's a troll to the nth level, and he's fucking jackass.
You know what? I just hope that his backpack gets lost in transit. That would be nice if that happens. If he does end up buying a ticket.
The problem is that if his backpack gets lost in transit, Baden's backpack is super big also.
Oh, right.
So Baden can fit a full team in his backpack as well.
Assuming that he's coming. Who knows what these boys from the East Coast are doing. Right, well, I mean, you did a pretty good job of alluding to today's special guest. He's waiting in the wings, and I'll let you tell him his journey on how he's ended up with a ticket to nationals. But for all of you that don't know, I mean, I don't know if anyone doesn't know who this guy is. I think everyone's met him. They've met his alter ego. This week, I would very much like to welcome to the podcast our friend Fireball DK. How are you, sir?
Fireball DK! Woo!
Leroy Jenkins! Yeah, it's a bit like that for sure.
Rolling in.
Now, I mean...
What's up, guys?
You've joined us today for a world exclusive... Drop some news on us, Fireball DK. What's going down?
The hottest would take. So this is almost certainly the worst kept secret in the universe because I couldn't help but troll people on the LF pages. But I decided to just sack up and buy a ticket and come to Brisbane because I would just miss you guys too much otherwise.
I'm so happy that you bought a ticket. When I found out that you weren't coming, I was actually sad about it. I was like, it's such a shame because the last Brisbane Nationals, you were there and you were part of the reason why I had such an amazing week. So I'm very excited that you're coming down.
Back at you, buddy. That was a great trip, and I wouldn't miss doing that again, to hang out with you and the other Joes, and now a whole other complement of Auckland peeps, and even Than will be there this time.
Yeah, the PS Than will also be there.
I can see him play with a proper Auckland crew that isn't like dying of the Black Plague all week. I mean, hopefully
we have to travel, so we're probably
we can
Kiwi AIDS.
We can hope that we're not going to have Kiwi AIDS. We're not going to make any promises on that because it's like
2 weeks after that.
It was kind of unpleasant.
I'm surprised actually because I stayed with you for a few days afterwards, and I could tell that you're like, I'm glad you're here, but I wish you weren't here. Like, because I feel so bad, and like I have to be fucking like host. Ugh. Like, cool. When do you go home again?
I find that impossible to deny. It is true. I loved having you over, but I was as sick as I think ever been in my life because I was exposed to the Kiwi AIDS in massively terrible form.
You're just like, hey, you know what? Instead of like Sacramento's really overrated. Don't go outside. Let's stay in, and I'll show you this wicked TV show that we could watch. What did we watch? I can't remember.
A lot of Rick and Morty that was happening.
A lot of Rick and Morty.
I know you're a big fan of that show.
Yeah. Anywho, so your journey to get to this point, I guess what kind of in-depthly spurred you on to come to Nationals?
One, as Than said, I was getting a bit of FOMO having listened to the podcast. Yes, somebody is actually listening to the podcast. And they did.
Right.
Motherfucker.
So that was something, but I don't know, the kind of long road to actually buying the ticket to get to the tournament. One is just that after last year's Nats, I had a lot of fun, and obviously, I got the Kiwi AIDS, which made the recovery process a little bit long. But I was also just kind of super burned out in a lot of ways from, as both you guys know, being a tournament coordinator and things like that can be a stressful process. There's a lot that has to be managed, a lot that has to be organized, keeping the timetables. Sometimes that means that you don't get to socialize as much during the week as you would otherwise like. So that was a little tough. And then just, I don't know. We kind of gave it our all that tournament. I at least feel for myself personally that we tried to give ourselves the best chance to maybe try to beat Brisbane.
Yeah.
Close, but could not get over the hump. And like that last match, I feel like I just completely ran out of gas. And like the fire inside of Fireball DK was down to embers at that point. So it just took me a little while to recover from that. And maybe like November, December, when people were talking about getting organized for the trip and things like that, I just didn't feel like the fire had come back yet. I wasn't really feeling it altogether. And I was like, there was this talk about maybe it would be in Auckland, and I haven't visited there yet, so that would be really cool. But if it's in Brisbane again, I did go there in 2014. And I think like Rusty mentioned in another episode, there were other possibilities of, well, hey, I only have so much money being, poorly employed and poorly paid in higher ed, that maybe I want to do some kind of non-lasers trip at some point in the future. So my partner and I actually planned to go someplace non-lasers related over the summer. So I kind of had the money set aside for that. Then like this opportunity came up to teach summer school. I was like, well, financially I probably should do this, but that's really going to preclude me from going to Brisbane Nats. But I still wasn't feeling it. So I said, okay to doing that. So that was another problem. But then like immediately after the first of the year, there was like family medical shit that intervened. So that was not good. So it kind of meant that we had to cancel our trips, both for a trip in the spring and in the summer, and just do something a little bit more low key. So I had the money to go to Brisbane, but I still had this kind of commitment to teach the class. I didn't feel like I could really get out of that. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But then the podcasts start up. And next thing I'm just like, oh man, I really am gonna miss those guys. Yeah. And then also credit not just to you guys, but to Night Owl as well. He started messaging me, and he's like, hey, you know, are you gonna be coming to the tournament this year? You know, we wanted you to be on the Joes because we're gonna try to get together this year. I was like, oh man, you know, I can't do it. I have this summer school class. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. But I was just kind of like feeling bad about things. And then the semester kind of wore on, and I was getting kind of burned out on work and all these other things as well. And I was like, oh, I really need a vacation. Hey, you know what would be great if I went to Brisbane? And other people from SAC are like asking me, are you going to go? I can't believe you're going to miss Nats. You always go to Nats. All these other questions. So I eventually felt like I was like, you know what? Maybe I can see if somebody else can take over that summer school class for me. And kind of rolled around to that standpoint, and literally in the span of like 48 hours, I got that worked out. I said, oh, okay, actually that wasn't that big a deal. I didn't need to worry that much about it. It's probably not the most responsible financial decision I've ever made, but you know what? That's okay. When I came in 2014, I was unemployed, so I'm already doing a lot better than I was then.
Yeah, travel to Australia on the government's dime. That's the way to go.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, the nice thing for the Americans who are traveling this year is the exchange rate is a lot better for us.
Yeah, it is.
Than it was when I came over in 2014. So the Australian economy is just in the shitter then. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Good riddance.
You're getting beat by the Kiwis. You're not in great shape.
Dude, seriously, we're almost on par with the Australian dollar.
Really?
It's pretty. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. Maybe not almost on par. Let me quickly check. Oh, 92 cents. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's definitely better than it was when I was living there and we went to Australia a couple of times. Like, oh look, it's like 70 cents on the dollar. That's cool.
Yeah. So it is closer.
Sucks.
So actually, on that, like, if any more Kiwis are thinking about coming over, buy your plane ticket. I'm sure there'll be a place for you somewhere to play, and at the very least meet Fireball DK in the flesh. So just sort of comment on what you said before. Al has a very persuasive way about him. That man is he tried very hard to reunite the Joes this year. And I was, if it wasn't for Than coming down, I probably would have played for them. But yeah, I'm glad that, you know, things have kind of worked out the way they have. But I'm even more glad that you are going to be an honorary Joe this year.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I've known Night Owl now since like 2002, I guess, was the first time we met, and that guy's just awesome.
That's
and
when he came over to the States, right? I think he was talking about.
Yeah, the first time when he and Rusty and Dragon came over, and I don't even remember who they teamed up with. It might as well have been a mop, a broomstick, and a dustpan, and just absolutely destroyed everybody in the SM5 tournament.
Three Houston people, and I can't, or three Sugarland people, and I can't even remember who they actually played with.
They're irrelevant. I'm sorry, guys, but you were.
Do you play now? No? Okay, too bad. Yeah, so on that, you're playing with the guys from Oakley.
Definitely excited about that, because I've although I stayed with Night Owl and you guys last time, which was probably the best vacation ever. I've never actually been on a tournament team with him, so this will be, I think, a great experience.
It'll be a good mix of being serious but also being intoxicated for the week. So
definitely,
I'm sure you'll find a happy medium somewhere there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Owl's gotten himself pretty freaking shredded in the last couple of months. I don't know how much drinking he's actually going to be doing.
Oh, he'll do quite a bit. Don't you worry about that. Basically,
we're just saving it all for a tournament.
Yeah, he's been in training for the last, I think it's like 3 months.
3 months, 6 months, something like that.
Yeah. But he's gonna let what hair he has remaining down at the tournament. So
less hair than I do. So yeah, that's.
Oh, he had to throw that one in there.
I totally did.
Cool. So I'm super excited now, more so than I was, that DK is actually coming. Do you have an idea of what your role in the team's going to be, or is it sort of a?
I honestly don't. I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing what works. I imagine that there'll probably have to be a little bit of kind of a trial and error process.
Sure.
Regarding exactly what the positions are, but I feel like I can play most anything, because I think in the last 4 tournaments that I've played, I've played basically 4 different positions as my primary role. Right. So I like being able to move around. I think that'll be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, well, I mean, because theoretically going up against one of the best scouts I've ever seen play the game, which is Hoodlum. Not going up against. Playing with. That's the one. That's what I'm after. So Hoodlum, one of the best scouts I've ever seen play the game. You've got Mental, who obviously hasn't played, assuming he comes. If he does come, then, you know, at least 10 years ago, he was one of the best commanders that had ever played the game. You've got Al, who's looking cut, so, you know, he could basically move around the maze. He's much freer to do so now, but maybe he'll put himself in the heavy role. Although then you have Duckman, who's, again, one of the best heavies I've ever seen play the game. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see who actually is coming and what positions they're playing. Do you know what that team is looking like at the moment? Who's actually confirmed to be coming?
Well, I think the person that we left off is Shags, who's also planning to come.
Right.
And really cool guy. Also, you know, was my reset partner in 2014, since he played with the rest of us Yanks who came over. He was one of the 2 guys who merked for us and was super helpful in that role. But I can totally understand if he doesn't want to be busted to medic for an entire tournament all over again. Yeah. So certainly I'm always happy at least to play some of the games in that kind of role, so people can move out and do different things. Yeah. I actually really enjoy playing resupply, even though I so rarely do it during tournaments. Yeah. But I think it's a really interesting perspective, and it's a whole kind of different set of muscles that you get to exercise.
It really is. Like, there's we were talking to the guys this week about it at Auckland Laserforce, and you've got to have this really strong leadership coming from the back, because which is a completely different skill set than just, you know, being able to go out and shoot people, or shoot more people than can shoot you. You know, if you've got the leadership, that really helps kind of guide your team around the maze, especially in a big maze like Brisbane.
Yeah, because I've been trying to stress to the SAC people, like, no, you guys don't understand. This field is huge. Yeah. You need to be in better shape. You're not going to be able to camp out so much like we do in Sacramento when we get lazy.
To be fair, though, I mean, out of anywhere that I've played, I think that Sacramento is the closest to the Brisbane maze, just with, you know, all of the play generally happens upstairs. If you go downstairs, then generally you get fucked. There's a bunch of ramps, you know, maybe not quite as long as I don't know.
So there is actually a design language reason why they feel similar. Right. It's because the Brisbane maze is actually modeled after a photon maze design. I can't remember if it's a photon alpha maze. They had like an alpha, beta, and gamma designs, but the design language is similar as far as like the width of the ramps and the heights of the walls and stuff like that. Sacramento, while not a photon maze in design, uses a lot of the same a lot of the same design language as far as the width of the hallways and the heights of the ramps and the lengths of the ramps and things like that. And in fact, when Sacramento originally opened, the way that each team base looked almost exactly like the generators in Brisbane.
Yes, the mushrooms for all you OG Sac players.
So the fact that you kind of had that feeling of, oh, hey, that this maze, while it's, half the size of Brisbane's maze, feels like it's playing in a similar manner, is down to that design language. So if you really want to get cerebral with it, that's the reason.
That makes a lot of sense because there definitely are a lot of similarities. The whole way that the towers kind of face the castle area, like that big open area down in that place. Yeah, it reminds me of like standing up on the helm in Brisbane, looking across the Albstadt.
I feel the same way in a lot of ways. I think that of all the fields that I've been to, they feel the most similar. Detroit's kind of in that vein, although I think it plays a bit differently. Then I think you'd probably agree with me there. It plays a bit differently in SAC.
For sure, but I mean, it does have, at a very macro level, it does have some of the same design language as far as like width of certain things and height of certain things. It shared a lot more of the design language before the previous ownership bought it and freaking murdered parts of
we don't need to talk about that.
The maze. But that's neither here nor there. Some of the things that they did to one of the ramps and the back hallway area, it's kind of like, really? Okay.
Well, if you can make the hallways narrow, it makes it easier to like corner children and like recruit them, I guess. So creepy bastards. So DK, like this, how many nationals have you played so far? Like, what will this upcoming one be for you?
I think this will be about maybe my 13th, something like that, because it goes all the way back to 1999 for me in the first U.S. Nats in Sugarland when I was a wee lad of 14 and got recruited into the scene.
I don't know how your parents let you come with us. Hell, I don't know how Dengar's parents, for that matter.
Decision. Very poor decision.
Very, very.
The beginning of a long process of corruption.
Do you want to? Can we take your underage child across state lines? Okay.
I think it was only because the owners of the facility were going, and they were viewed paradoxically as responsible parents. So I guess my folks gave the sign off on it.
Then apparently, I mean, Dengar's dad, apparently really trusted all the staff members, and I was a staff member at that point. Like, literally, I was the person who was holding his medical release. So if anything happened to him on that trip, I was the one responsible for making sure he got care and then contacting his dad.
Oh, that's
at the grand age of like 19, you were invested with that responsibility.
That's
great move, guys.
Yeah.
I was 20 at that point. Let's get it right. But yeah, no. So at the grand age of 20, I've got the medical release that if he gets hurt, I can make decisions to make sure he gets the care that he needs. Dad say, "Hey, this happened." Yeah, fortunately, it didn't have to do that.
In the grand scope of Laser's trips, that one was fairly wholesome. So it was appropriate for audiences under age 18. I can't say that for all the tournaments.
Now, bear in mind that, obviously we're a little bit more lax with our 18-year-olds this side of the world, so we'll see what happens on this nationals trip. Wait, that sounded a little threatening. I'm not threatening.
Maybe you can
edit that part out later. I'd also agree, I think, with something that you guys said on a previous podcast about, in some ways, I think 2010 is kind of the dawn of like the modern age of tournaments, at least for American players.
Absolutely. But I think
I say that with some. Well, I say that with some trepidation, because if we only start in 2010, then I don't get to count any of the tournaments that I won before that, because they all came before 2010, pretty much.
How many wins have you got?
One in 99.
That's right. You have 3. That's right. You have 3 because you got what should have been my spot in 99. Not that I'm still bitter about that at all.
18 years later, he's still talking about it.
I may or may not still be a little bitter about that, but whatever.
In nursing home, he's still going to be like bringing that up in like 60 years or something.
Yeah, he says that he got job opportunities in Texas, but really he was just like, I can't be in the same state as DK. it's too painful.
I was only back for like 4 months before he just fucked off and moved to Texas. I was like, thanks, bro.
He was going to give it a go, and then he was like, oh, nah, I can't do it. I can't.
Nah, just couldn't. It's true. Sorry, DK.
So, this being your 13th, I'd imagine... oh, no, you've been in Brisbane once before. So, I mean, this will be your second time in Brisbane. How do you feel? Because I think they've made... Not I think, they have made changes to the maze since we've played there, I believe. Although they had... No, they had the Vortex and stuff whilst you were there. That's right, cock and ball.
Yeah, I think that those were the last major additions, were the new tower with the obs deck and the Vortex, which I know they said kind of changed the way that they play. So I don't know if I think they've made some minor modifications since then, but that was the last major shift that they made. So we'll see what happens this year. But again, since I was playing Resup most of the week, I'm actually not in some of the attack angles and things like that from there. So we'll see. If I end up playing something different, maybe I'll get a somewhat different view of the maze.
Yeah, I think I would be surprised if you don't end up in an attacking role, but been surprised a lot before, so we'll see.
On the general subject of laser tagging tournaments and why I had so much FOMO going into this thing and really wanted to make sure I could come down and see you guys, I think it's just so important for the social aspect, and that more than anything else is the main reason was just to see all you guys again, because I'm interacting with a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. I mean, I know I saw you guys last year, but a lot of other people that I haven't seen in a while, I'm looking forward to seeing again. Even you, Taipan.
I think that's what
really?
Last year was. I think that's what last year was. And it was I think down to the the hours of play, because of the 12 to 12 kind of schedule.
It's a little rough.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was okay-ish for those of us who kind of traveled from this side of the world, because time zones and junk. But I can imagine like the locals, enjoying that so much. Because we
a little lethal weapon on that one. Getting too over this shit.
Because we would finish up the day's play, and then for some obscure reason we decided to record a podcast, so we'd sit there for like another 45 minutes or whatever, 30 to 45 minutes doing the podcast, and then I would go back to the accommodation and grab a glass of milk and some cookies.
And trip over like 3 dead bodies of other Kiwis on your way in.
Yeah, put on my hazmat suit and then sit down and cut the podcast. So, it was
cookies. That's what we're calling it these days.
No, actually, so in the past it would have been a glass of bourbon, but actually, I went and bought like a massive bag of cookies and like this like, they come in like gallon jugs of milk. And we'll just sit there and have milk and cookies before doing the podcast. Yeah, getting too old for this shit. But yeah, so
that was a great time though. I mean,
It
having
was.
the podcast to listen to again, and I actually did go back and listen to some of them recently,
Yeah.
and it just reminded me of what a good week it was, even in cases where I felt like we fell short of our goal. I was like, oh yeah, but it was really fun just to see all the teams there and all the players and just to have a good time, and
Yeah.
then just to mess around and do stuff after the tournament. Because I know there are definitely two words that I was looking forward to when I thought about going back to Brisbane, and that is Green Lantern.
Yes. Yes. So, for those who don't know, Brisbane slash the Gold Coast, this is the Gold Coast, they have a plethora of theme parks, and Movie World being the crown jewel, if you will. And the expect that we'll spend at least 3 days at Movie World this trip. Jump online, have a look at what the passes are, because you're probably going to need to get a year pass for how often that we go. But we went like 4 times in the last trip. Is that right? 3 or 4 times?
Something like that. I think I know I went at least twice, if not 3 times with you guys, and then
Yeah.
again with the Yang
Yeah.
after the tournament was done. Yeah, that was great. Except the last 2 times, there was Scooby Doo was broken down,
Oh,
and I
that's disappointing.
almost threw a 10-year-old like tantrum, not being able to ride one of the best rides in the park.
That ride is amazing. I love the Scooby Doo ride. It's for kids, but it's amazing. And
Told me when we first went on it, we're going on it, it's going all slow. I was like, what the fuck is Steve-O talking about? This is boring. We're just going through this house, and then it like takes you up that elevator, and you start going fast in the dark, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever.
Fireball DK does like to go fast in the dark.
That was even before Fireball DK was properly invented. Although that trip is kind of the origin,
I was gonna
maybe
say,
not of Fireball DK, but at least of alcoholic DK.
shout out to Cookie and Deza.
So kind of the origins of the whole Fireball DK story, since that wasn't always my name. For those who don't know, DK is for Death Knight, which has been my name since 1997 and just got shortened to DK. I think actually Than was the first one to call me DK.
Makes sense.
So that's just kind of stuck in the same way that Rusty stuck with Brent for whatever reason. So that trip in Brisbane, normally throughout most of my 20s and stuff like that, I still really don't drink hardly ever, except during laser tag tournaments. Even at other tournaments we go to, remember 2011, 2012, 2013, people will be drinking, have a really good time the last night or something like that. It was like a big deal that I took 2 shots in 2013 or something like that. Wookie almost lost his mind. It's like, oh my god, DK's drinking. So that happened, and then we're there at the awards dinner 2014, and we go to Spectrum, which is the world's greatest bar ever created. So again, shout out to Cookie and Deza there. And other people were getting there and they're drinking on stuff like that. I was just kind of having fun, socializing with people. And Beans comes over with like this ridiculous looking blue girly drink, and I was like, oh, that looks kind of tasty. Maybe I will have one of those. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then somebody, I don't remember who it was like, oh, DK, you have to try one of these chocolate daiquiris over here. I was like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. I tasted it, and I was like, oh my god. It's like a chocolate milkshake. This tastes amazing. Now, I don't know how much alcohol was actually in those things, but all I know is I started drinking them, and other people repeatedly started buying them for me, so I just kept drinking them.
Oh dear.
I guess became something of a sensation. I know certainly Owl and Fish were very happy to meet that version of DK.
Yeah, that was the birth of the famous penis colada, wasn't it? That's the chocolate penis colada.
I believe it was. But it was the next year in 2015, the Loveland tournament, when Fireball DK was invented, because I was introduced to the most glorious variety of alcohol ever conceived by the human race, which is Fireball whiskey, which for some inexplicable reason other people find just to be this disgusting, unpalatable drink, and they are crazy because it's amazing.
Does it taste like cinnamon? Yeah.
Really best when you mix it with like Coke or Pepsi or something like that.
Right.
Because if you ever had like Big Red Gum or something like that, just this sweet cinnamon kind of thing, it's just amazing. And if you're a lightweight like me who doesn't drink the rest of the year, it takes like maybe 3 shots, and then you're just good to go for the rest of the night.
And then Fireball DK.
DK comes out and he gets pirates and things like that in the laser tag maze.
And then 2015. I mean, to be fair, there were reasons to drink that week, but then I had a disappointed fan coming home from the baseball game to the house that we had rented, and all you motherfuckers were drunk as fuck. What in the hell is... Oh, good. Everybody's drunk. And Bronwyn was trying to go shot for shot with Stalker, which...
Hey kids.
Super, super bad idea, because for those of you who have never met Bronwyn and never met Stalker, Stalker is 6'4", 6'5", like 250 to 260 pounds worth of solidness. Bronny is like 5'9", and relatively petite, all things considered, comparative to Stalker. And she was my understanding is she tried to go shot for shot with him. And if I could do a Morgan Freeman voice, it was a terrible idea.
Nailed it.
That was such a thing to come home to, and it's just like, okay. The only positive thing when I got back to the house was that none of the underages were drinking. I was like, that was the only thing that took me from super disappointed Than to merely disappointed Than.
Almost get shot by the Colorado Homeowners Association for playing QZR on their lawn at like 11 p.m. Which poor Russell, maniac, who had actually booked the accommodations, got like a very angry message from the homeowners the next day because the neighbors were none too pleased about some of the shenanigans that went on at that house. But we've all agreed that it was very much worth it.
Hell yeah. So on this trip, hopefully the plan is that everyone's going to be in the same accommodation, or at least the traveling team. So everyone from Auckland and you guys from the States. I think at least the Sacramento kids are staying there, and the guys from Oakley are going to stay there too. So having us all in the same community is going to be both. It's
going to be 2008 all over again. Is what it's going to be.
You know what?
It
2008 was
year.
Yeah, that was pretty brilliant. We would in the mornings we'd all congregate like we were a bunch of hobos, and kick a ball around, and it was just really nice to be able to do that stuff whilst there was still light out, and it was really cool. So that's going to be fantastic this year. Having everyone in the one place is going to be absolutely brilliant. Provided nobody gets Kiwi AIDS or,
Well, since we have multiple cabins this time, we'll just have to segregate them into their own quarantined facility. They don't get to come out until they are cured, because I'm not getting sick on this trip.
Yeah, or at least if you do get sick on the way home.
That'll be fine. Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna miss is the opportunity to drive slowly away from Spoon Man while he's trying to put on his shoes and get into the car, and we don't let him in.
That's always a fun game. But I mean,
I wish we'd gotten that on video. That was too good.
There's always somebody else to do that too. So how long are you actually down for? Are you staying just for the tournament, or are you here a little longer, or?
Before that, I think it's about 11 days total.
Yeah.
That I'm coming down, so I'll be there the weekend before the tournament gets started, and I'm leaving essentially the Monday after it's done.
Okay.
I would love to stay longer. I wanted to bounce Auckland to see you,
yeah.
But unfortunately I have to be back at work. But that was another reason ultimately, when it came down to it, I hadn't really carefully checked the summer schedule for the 2 colleges where I teach, and realized that August 3rd, and that I was going to be due back at work the next week. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. One of the few upsides to being a teacher is you get extended time off. And if I don't have that, then what the hell do I have?
Cool. Well, look, I know the community, those who don't already know, who now know, will be stoked that you're heading down. I think they'll be stoked that you're playing with the Oakley boys. I know you've said you've got like a huge amount of respect for those guys, as do I. They're some of my favorite people in the world, so they'll be stoked to have you as well.
I think it's gonna be really great. And I mean, the only other thing that I had that I wanted to address, I mean, we've had a lot of good times and things like that, but just on a slightly more serious note, I know one thing also that kind of led me on this road, well, maybe initially to not signing up to go to the tournament, but eventually buying back in, is just, I think, from kind of a mental health perspective. In the last couple of years, I've dealt with a couple of really bad bouts of depression, which I know has surprised some people who know me, because they're just like, oh, you should seem like a easygoing guy and stuff like that. But it kind of comes and goes in waves, and it's something that I know I'm certainly not the only person in the laser tag community who's had struggles with various kinds of issues like that. It can be difficult, but I think for all of us that are involved, laser tag is great at keeping us focused, and also just having a community of people to really get together and shoot the shit with, because a lot of people consider these to be some of the best friends that they have. I mean, like, you guys are awesome. I love hanging out with you guys. Fan is basically like my brother, since I've known him for, over 20 years at this point, and known you for a few as well. Yeah, we're old. But and it's great hanging out with you guys, and it's some of the best times I've ever had, and that kind of helps keep me focused.
And you bring up the whole mental health aspect of it, and if we're gonna go this kind of serious route on here, because hey, we kind of bounce around with these podcasts through everything. It's fairly impressive. I'm not sure impressive is the right word. It's probably not the right word. But it always kind of amazes me. Amazes is the wrong word too. Just the level of overall compassion at times this community has for its members. That, I mean, let's face it, pretty much all of us in this community imaged in some way, whether it's various health issues, whether it's other I mean, we all have our own share of damage, defect, and baggage. And I think one of the things that has made this community what it is, even though there are definitely times when I want to murder all of you, is the fact that everybody kind of understands on kind of this almost intuitive level that everybody's got their issues and demons that they're dealing with. And when push actually comes to shove, when you get past some of the initial surface, I mean, we're all always going to give each other the greatest amount of shit possible for the greatest amount of impact. That's just the way that this all works. But the amount of times that I have seen this community, when it's a genuine issue, rally around somebody to try to bring them back up, and it may be somebody that, as a general rule, you can't stand. I mean, I know I've got a few people in this community that honestly I can't stand, or they are not.
You're a grumpy fan. That's a lot of people.
and they're or they're not my favorite person, or this, that, and the other. But when it comes to oh, if you find out, oh, this person's having a genuine issue, crisis, whatever of some form that's a genuine thing. As a general rule, this community is able to put aside the bullshit and rally around somebody who is in crisis and try to support them the best way possible. Now, again, that person gets out of crisis and it, pretty much it can go back to, business as usual and, all the slings, arrows, slings, arrows, and fighting goes back to normal. This community, I've seen it, will rally around somebody that is having a genuine issue or crisis and try to bring that person up and out of it. And that's and to circle it all the way back to Nats. This is the point where we all get to be face to face, where we all get to be feel that community in person. We only get to do that once or twice a year. The situation where you get to see these people. Overall positive vibe that comes from that. It's a special thing, and that's why this year is going to be tournament number 15 for me. Let me factor that. It's going to be national tournament number 15. That doesn't count all the smaller ones in between. And the reason I keep doing it, despite the fact that I hate all of you, is the fact that you actually deep down, really deep down, I do actually enjoy time with some of you. So
we can get a preview of what Fireball Fan looks like, because I bet that's even more spectacular.
I think that would be terrible. I think that would be absolute worst things possible. Nope.
Well, literally, when Rusty became aware of the rumors that I might attend, wink, wink, the first thing that he messaged me on Facebook was, just as a heads up, it'll probably be cheaper if you get your Fireball duty free at the airport. So I'm glad somebody's looking out for me. So thanks, buddy.
He's not wrong. But yeah, like this community is a bunch of shitbags at times. But, for the most part, it's pretty awesome to be a part of. And as you say, if we didn't have a caring of at least the majority of the people on the scene, then we wouldn't really have the sustained longevity of the tournament scene. As you say, it's your 15th tournament that's spanning a playing career of, what, 20 years? Over 20 years?
Well, so I've been playing since '97, but the first national tournament was in '99.
Right.
So,
still,
depending upon how you want to measure it.
Yeah. But it's same with guys like Traj. He's been around forever, and I would assume that A, it's because he loves the game, as we all do. But B, it's the people that make up the tournament scene. So, we're pretty lucky that this tournament will afford us one of the best people, and that's me. No, that's Fireball DK.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm so amped for this trip, man. I can't wait. I was trying to sleep the other night and just ended up thinking about Nats, and then next thing I know, it's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm still lying in bed with wide awake, fully amped to go for nationals, and just oh, this is dumb.
It's not just me.
Yeah, no, it's not just you. So, for this week, we'll probably leave it there, but if we don't end up talking to DK again between now and Nationals, we most definitely will have the podcast in some form or another cranking during the week. Hopefully we can get it to be a daily release again like we did last time. It is...
Not going to promise that. We're going to try it. We're going to try. We're not going to promise.
That's right. It's really brutal to do it, but I think it's also really enjoyable for those who aren't actually attending nationals. Which actually, you know what? In this case, there's not that many of the scene that aren't coming. So, whatever, maybe we won't. But yeah,
you gotta have them.
I think we definitely will. I will definitely be doing it. But yeah, thanks, DK.
They're great to make love to.
Ew.
Wow.
But yeah, thanks for joining us this week, DK. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, no worries. Well, that'll do for us this week. I've been Guy Next Door.
I've been Fan.
And always remember to backtrack, kids. See you next week.